for joining me tonight for Transcendent. It will be a night to remember. There's a lot going on in our world, and a lot for the body of Christ to do. It's a great time for us to be alive as a people of God, because we're commissioned by the Lord Jesus Christ to be salt and light in the midst of what's going on in our world today. And I'm glad that you've joined me tonight here on Transcendent for that. I did not do Transcendent on Tuesday for very good reason. My wife's birthday was on Tuesday. And so I just suspended all of the normal daily activity to spend my time being with her that full day. And it was certainly worth every moment of doing that. And my producer agreed that instead of Tuesday, that we could do tonight. And I probably caught you at home, wrapped up from the cold, because it is cold outside. I need you to do a couple things right at the outset of our broadcast tonight. Is like this broadcast and share it. I'm going to be sharing some video with you tonight on a number of occasions, and it'll be important that you pass this around so that other people can get a load of what's happening in our country and what's about to transpire right here in the city of San Antonio. But before I go into that, I want to just tell you something about San Antonio in black, white, and brown. SABWB was formed when the so-called non-discrimination ordinance came into the city under the leadership of then Mayor Julian Castro, whose brother, by the way, Representative Joaquin Castro, is on the impeachment manager's team and arguing for the impeachment of President Trump for a second time. And so that kind of lets you know where the trail of this city goes. Listen to me now. That kind of lets you know what political trail is being blazed in the city of San Antonio toward things that many people right here in the city of San Antonio would embrace and enjoy. Things like the former President Trump did during his administration, bringing the jobless count down in every demographic in the country, and the list goes on of things that's moving forward there. And I need you guys to jump on tonight. I'm looking for some folks and don't see them yet, so I need you to come online and let's get this show on the road, so to speak. But I want to tell you about what's going on with San Antonio in black, white, and brown in light of the history, the start of SABWB here in the city of San Antonio. My producer tells me that I do have some people on, but I don't see them out here. So hopefully. Oh, okay. I'm gonna try to get to you guys, so get to you where I can see you. Oh yeah, I was on another page. So here's what happens. The political pedigree of the city of San Antonio leads all the way into the impeachment managers that is now trying to impeach President Trump for a second time. It won't happen. We'll talk about that tonight. It's a political stunt to, while out of one side of the mouth they say unify, and on the other side of the mouth they're trying to make sure that a person who is out of office does not have a right to get back into office. And so you have to ask yourself the question, don't you? Why so much hubbub? Why so much apprehension or fear on the return of an administration that did so much good for the country? Why would you be so panicked about the possibility of President Trump running again in another 4 years? While we deal with that on a national level, as I said, the political pedigree bleeds all the way back to the city of San Antonio, because Joaquin Castro's brother, Julian Castro, is in that same pool. Joaquin is actually on the impeachment manager's team, but his brother Julian Castro mayored our city for a while and mentored our sitting mayor Ron Nuremberg. So that gives you some trail as to where we're going. And then in this first half of this year, culminating on May 1st, is our own city elections, determining who the mayor will then be and city council going forward. So San Antonio and Black, White, and Brown and other organizations have an opportunity to make change right where it counts. So I need to talk to everyone who was in the Alamo City Trump train. I need to talk to everybody who, although you were not in the train, you still endorsed the idea of the nation continuing on in the trajectory that President Trump's administration was leading it. I need to say this to you. Now, hear me real good right here. The national thing is taking on a a different kind of battle. I'll say something about that tonight. But all politics is local. And those who deal in politics have heard that statement a million times. All politics is local. What does that mean? It means that whatever happens nationally has happened first at smaller levels, at the municipal level, at the city level, at the state level, and then it becomes a federal phenomenon. Now we'll see that, and we'll see a little bit of this tonight also. That with executive orders, a record number of them having been signed by this incoming Biden-Harris administration. Um, a lot of that is show, because the effect of things cannot be wiped away with the stroke of a pen. And yet there are some things that all of these executive orders reveal the mindset and the directional flow that the Biden-Harris administration wants to take the country in the direction of. So I ask you tonight, the title of our show tonight is this what you really want? We're going to take a couple of our Transcendent broadcasts, probably this one tonight and some next Tuesday, to help just unpack that reality. Is this what you wanted? But for the city of San Antonio, SABWB, along with some other organizations, are turning our focus toward what needs to happen locally. Thankfully, SABWB, which was formerly a DBA of Faith Outreach Center International, the church that I'm privileged to serve as its senior pastor, but now SABWB, the door has opened, one, for us to establish an office. I went to see the offices today. We're grateful that that we have found some office space, and we'll start occupying that space during the month of March. We have an executive director. We now have we are acquiring too as well a overarching 501c3. So I'm very, very happy about what's happening with SABWB. We need your partnership, of course. Only 1,500 of you becoming our partner at the $10 a month rate, and we just did $10 a month because it's easier for anybody to do. Everybody can reach $10 a month. Go to our website at sabwb.org, and you'll follow just a couple of simple prompts there, and you'll become our monthly partner, and we'll be able to get over into the backside of our website where there is some training that is done for you. You'll have an opportunity to have a look at our mixers. You'll be able to view our tapes for the conferences that we have done in the past years. We will do a leadership teaching for you. We'll have a gift of the month back there for you, all of that. And then we'll enlist you in terms of you being salt and light in the city of San Antonio. So thank you so much for your partnership in advance. For those of you who are real tech savvy, more tech savvy than I am, you can do it right now on your cell phone by texting 84321. Text to that number the amount that you want to give, and it's so I'm really kind of taking a $10 offering tonight. You can put in 10, then provide a space and put SABWB. So it's 84321, the amount you want to give, and my recommendation is $10 this month, so that you can become our partner each month. 84321, 10 a space, and then SABWB. You do that tonight and quickly, and we're off and running, and we'll be able to be your voice. We're going to do some things with SABWB this upcoming year that's vitally necessary for the fabric of our city to be mended and for the agenda of the city to be turned in the right direction. You remember that there are two main goals with SABWB: build trusting relationships and collaborate on the value and implementation of principles that shape the culture. So we build relationships, shape the culture. Build relationships, shape the culture. And relationships mean that every bone has to find his bone. Every member of the body, all of us together have to work. But you need a voice, you need a point man, you need an entry point, you need some knowledge, you need some direction. All of this, all of us feeling a certain way now. We know that the integrity of the elections have been compromised. You're going to see that here on this broadcast tonight also. And if that's not corrected, then we have no confidence going forward that no matter how much energy you may marshal in this in society, if the actual voting process can be manipulated so that the outcome is whoever's outcome they desire, then all of the energy is for naught. So SABWB will be your voice for voter integrity. We're going to be leading the way in that in this coming election. Therefore, we need someone totally devoted to that process, and it's partnership that makes that happen. So thank you for your partnership. This is not something we have to address on Sunday on a pulpit or a week show. We need someone every day devoted to the process to make sure that voter integrity is well established here in the city of San Antonio, and that our vote is not compromised, as we will see in this broadcast tonight. It has happened to a massive degree on the federal level, and someone will mockingly say, all those cases that went before judges and judges didn't hear it and all of that. Do you know how many of those cases were thrown out because of substance, no credible substance? None of them, not a single one. Those cases were thrown out because of standing, the lack of standing to submit it, or some other kind of procedural error, not on the basis of the substance of the information. Not a single case was thrown out because the substance was not substantiated. It was thrown out for procedural reasons. And all of that really speaks to how deep the swamp is, and how ready people are to jump on a single agenda and push it. I can't believe this is happening in our nation and our time, but it is. And since it is, that means you and I are here, appointed here in this time by God, to make the level of change that he is requiring us to make. Now, it's interesting to me that while this former administration, the Trump administration, fought this battle at a national level, that the battle has now come down all the way to the city. So we have to have a city that is willing to rise up, and we have to have a point organization. And for you, that point organization is SABWB. Your partnership, 1,500 of you, is all we need in the city. 1,500 out of a sea of 1.7 million. And there are many of you who a united front, a united and strategic battle has to be waged. And we are less than 70 days out now. May 1st is the day of our elections. So we have to hit the ground running. I'm glad that we have office space. I'm glad we have personnel standing by ready to do this 24/7. And you release us. You untie our hands through your partnership. So thanks for doing that with us. I went a little longer than that, and I wanted to go on it, but I think it's important that you can see and hear and understand the direction SABWB is going in, and how we can move quickly in that direction to make sure we are not, that our vote is not compromised at the city level, and that the people, I'm telling you, there are some partners accessible to SABWB that will allow us to make certain that your vote as a citizen is not compromised, and make certain that the message is gotten out and the city is saturated with the right information, and we don't have to rely on big tech. We don't have to rely on it. There's a way that we can do this thing with some partners that I'm already working with here in the city of San Antonio. So you help that happen by your partnership. Thank you for it. So tonight's subject was and is this what you wanted? So I want to take you to a couple of pieces of video tonight. Uh, the first I want to show you is concerning our sitting Vice President, Kamala Harris. She was the district attorney of the state of California prior to, and then a senator, and now the sitting Vice President of the United States. The second most, arguably, the second most powerful person in the entire world. Should something happen to the president, if he's mentally unable to carry on, if like he says, these words came out of Joe Biden's mouth, President Joe Biden. He said, if she and I disagree, then I'll get some kind of terminal disease and I'll resign. That's what he said. If she and I can't come to agreement on something, then I'll get some kind of terminal disease and I'll resign. Those were Joe Biden's words. I'm not making it up. Just Google it. You'll see that those words came out of his mouth. So it's important that then we would then take a look, because he said, I'll get some terrible disease. There are some of us who already know that, looking at him and looking at the weariness and the tiredness on his face, that he doesn't have the energy, he doesn't have the stamina that President Trump had. He's several years older. I think he's 77, close to 78 years old. And then the weariness of his years and the degradation of his health, the decline in his health, I should say, is showing up. And he's just kind of now a puppet guy whose agendas are coming before him, and he's just signing off on them and doing them. And the possibility is that he cannot sustain that for very long, and then Kamala Harris would move into the presidency. So it bears weight for us to take a look at some of the actions taken by Kamala Harris. Now, some of the things there are some things I could say, but they are not things with which I have substantial evidence, so I'm not going to bring them forward. Some of you might be able to, even while I'm talking in the comment section down here, you might be able to say, pull up some articles and put some information out concerning this. What I want to address is the Project Veritas movement that took place, you recall, some time ago. Now, I want you to, as a believer, because Transcendent, we call it Transcendent because we take the conversation beyond normal boundaries. We try to take it outside of the rhetoric of Republican and Democrat, because I think one thing that we're seeing as we move forward here, that in many cases, the Republican Democrat is just two sides of the same coin. They, in many cases, will play good cop, bad cop, but they're both after the same objective in some cases. Now, there are people in both parties, no doubt, who are there because they're convinced that that party mechanism may be able to be the best mechanism to help them help people. But then there are some who are not there to help people. They're there, for example, on a senator's salary or on a congressman's salary. How does Pelosi and a list of other Democrat and Republican congressmen and senators live so high on the hog? They don't really make enough money from their job to do that. How are they doing that? Is there some lobbyist? Is there somebody currying favors to them so that they can get what they want in terms of laws being written and things being done to favor their particular industry? Is that I can tell you without equivocation, that is the case. Big old mansions and spreads, and that's not off of a senator's salary, folks. That's not off of a congressperson's salary. There's other means that sitting in that position makes you privy to, that people are willing to pay for. It's like Hunter Biden's seat on the, all of that's not done yet either. Hunter Biden's seat on this Burisma board, this that was managed by an oligarch in the Ukraine who was known for corruption. And Hunter had no oil and gas experience. Why was he on the board? He was on the board because he was Hunter Biden. When asked if he were not a Biden, would he be placed on the board? Hunter's own words was, I know that my placement on the board had much to do with the fact that I'm a Biden. I'm not going to deny that. Well, there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of it going around. And with those kind of things that's happening, you and I, listen to me right here now. You and I have to be a people who decide that as we the people, we're taking it back. We're going to take our government back, and we're going to begin at the city level. We're going to start right here in the city of San Antonio. But for the state of California and Project Veritas, that man started a 3-year undercover investigation, journalist investigation, trying to determine, by partnering with some of Planned Parenthood's chief partners in the sale of aborted baby body parts, how to track them to see where they were going and what was going on with them. And when he found out that what was going on, he began to push these videos. And I want you to take a look at this video and listen to this man's own voice, because this woman in this video that's being featured, Kamala Harris, is now your sitting vice president. Take a look at this, and I'll be right back.
April 5th, 2016. This is an idyllic Southern California spring day. As I'm walking out to take the kitchen garbage out, I turn around the corner and pass a big white windowless van. All of a sudden the door swings open and this tall uniformed guy steps out, and he has a piece of paper in his hands, and he says, "Are you David Daleiden?" And he says, "I'm with the California Department of Justice. We have a search warrant for your home." And he hands me the warrant. And I think to myself, oh gosh, what's going to happen next? So about 5 or 6 California DOJ agents started stomping through my apartment. The other 5 of them standing on the lawn outside. Some of them were armed with AR-15s. Some of them had canine dogs with them. They had come for me. In 2013, I began and orchestrated an almost 3-year-long, very in-depth, comprehensive investigative journalism study about the harvesting and trafficking of body parts from late-term abortions. There's multiple violations and multiple issues that you very quickly start to learn about when you look into it. There's the basic problem of selling body parts, where you're basically creating a system, creating transactions, creating business relationships that incentivize the objectification and the destruction of human beings in order to keep the business going.
Were you listening to
that? So for about 30 months, we went undercover with the explicit purpose of partnering with some of the biggest Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in the country to send their technicians in, harvest body parts from the abortions that were being done that day, and then package up the parts and ship them off to different customers all around the country, sometimes around the world. In July of 2015, we began to release the Undercover video series. I had been hoping that this was something that would, that would maybe generate 100,000 views or something. Instead, what happened was even bigger than I could have imagined. Within less than a week, we had close to 3 million views on YouTube of the first video, and multiple congressional committees announcing that they were launching federal investigations of Planned Parenthood's involvement in fetal trafficking and fetal experimentation. The truth got out there, and the words of Planned Parenthood's own leadership describing their organization's participation in these activities went viral and was being publicized for the whole world to see. Looking back on it from the information that we know now, I now know what was going on was that Kamala Harris, at the explicit instruction of Planned Parenthood, had targeted me, and me alone, among all undercover video news gatherers in the state of California, to enforce the California video recording law against me and to punish me for speaking the truth about her powerful campaign donors at Planned Parenthood. What we've come to learn in the years since, just 2 weeks before serving the search warrant on my home, Kamala Harris had a secret meeting in Los Angeles with several top-level executives of Planned Parenthood in California. We then found out from the California DOJ investigator reports that Planned Parenthood's top lawyer in California had specifically instructed the California DOJ agents that Planned Parenthood wanted the video equipment and the computers that I was using to publish the videos to be seized, in order to shut me up, in order to prevent me from continuing to publish the truth about Planned Parenthood's involvement in fetal trafficking, and in order to punish me for speaking out with a message that was disfavored by Planned Parenthood and by Kamala Harris in the state of California. I think what people have to understand about organizations like Planned Parenthood and about their political backers like Kamala Harris is that they're shameless, and they will do whatever they have to do in order to promote their agenda. They'll say whatever they have to say, and they are not afraid to use every bit of power at their disposal to force their agenda through. Kamala Harris is the single greatest threat to First Amendment civil liberties that our country has ever seen. If Kamala Harris is elected to be a heartbeat away from the highest office in the United States of America, you will have someone in the White House who has a radical contempt and disrespect for First Amendment civil liberties, someone who believes that she's entitled to use the powers of her office in order to punish the viewpoints of citizens who disagree with her.
Well, that is your sitting vice president. When that video was made, she was not yet the vice president of the United States. She now is, and many of you voted to put her there. The woman who will partner with an organization that funds her. Planned Parenthood funded her. She curried a favor for that funding by targeting this man with men with guns to go in and seize his property and to shut him down. Now listen, I'm talking about this happening in the United States of America, and many of you voted for her. Is that really what you wanted? Is this the kind of regime? Is this the kind of leadership regime that you want to be actively leading the United States of America? And Vice President Harris is, as the gentleman said in the video, is one heartbeat away from rising to the arguably the most powerful seat on the planet. And if she will, as the chief law enforcement officer for the state of California, if she will use her powers to do that in the state, what would keep her from doing it when she has more power? You and I should have been sober-minded enough, and I think many of us were, to the tune of 75 to 80 million. You'll see that here on this video too. But there has been compromise in the voting process, and it will happen not only at the federal level, it will happen at every level, to include the city of San Antonio, if you and I don't partner together. So I need to say again tonight, I need to say again to every person that was a member of the Trump train, for every person who wanted to be a member of it and supported it, now the battle is no longer at the federal level. It is at the federal level. I can't say that. It's a strong and harsh battle at the federal level, but the battle cannot, all of the energy that cannot now be focused in Washington. It now must come home to San Antonio, and right here in our own city, we must take up a collective strategic effort, a lot of it from every person, a lot of volunteerism, a lot of strategy. We'll at SABWB, we'll be putting out some things over the next week and then the weeks following. In fact, I want to stop right here to remind you. I said right here like I'm from North Carolina. I want to stop right here. And I want to inform you about the first mayoral debate coming up this coming Tuesday at Restoring Church. Pastor Daryl Crane, Champions Coalition, and me of San Antonio and Black, White, and Brown will be co-chairing the first mayoral debate this coming Tuesday night. All of the candidates will be there. We're using the regular debate format. We will ask very pertinent questions and probing questions after the pertinent questions so that you, the viewer, can know for yourself where these particular candidates stand. At the last notification that I received, the sitting mayor, about the incumbent mayor, Ron Nirenberg, will be among them, as well as Greg Brockhouse, who's probably the most serious contender to that seat, and about 5 other people who are running will also be in that mayoral debate on Tuesday, February the 16th. On Tuesday, yes, Sunday is Valentine's Day, my baby girl's birthday. Then 15th Monday, and then 16th Tuesday at 6 o'clock at Restoring Church. Now you look. The reason evil agendas get to go full steam ahead is because good people do nothing. Good people wag their head and shake their finger and suck their lip about how bad things are, but do nothing. I'm saying to you, San Antonio, you cannot afford to do that. Every person that was that got involved in a Trump train, every person that supported the direction in which the Trump administration was taking the nation, every person who knows that there's been compromise and fraudulent stuff that has happened involving the election. I will show it here on this broadcast as well. It's time now for you at a local level to show up. And one of the first places to show up, one of the first, is February the 16th, Restoring Church. It's on Fredericksburg Road. It's a church that Max Lucado used to pastor. You're there, right? So like a quarter of a mile up from the Fredericksburg and Medical interchange, there on the right-hand side as you're going out toward I-10 on Fredericksburg Road. So make sure you're there this coming Tuesday night at 6 o'clock for the first mayoral debate in our city. I'll be co-chairing along with Pastor Darrell Crane. We'll be asking the questions of the mayors to make sure that we can ferret out the pertinent information and choose the best candidate to lead our city. Not only is the mayor's seat important, but if the mayor doesn't have a complement of people that can help him move the city in a proper direction, then his hands are tied. So not only does the mayor's seat needs to be looked at, but so do a good quorum of the council seats also need to be looked at. Action has to be taken at the grassroots level. Because it's Black History Month, the month of February, I'm reading through the section of my library where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s books are. He was 39 when he was killed in April of 1968. About 6 something in the afternoon, a shot rang out, and on the balcony of the motel where he was staying, the Lorraine Motel, I think it was the name of it, and it struck him dead. But God used his life to put out some information and some insights, which I find to be stirring reading all the time, but especially during Black History Month. It causes me to refocus again and causes me to be able to pinpoint some energy toward moving toward a biblical sense of justice, not this social justice that has everything attached to its coattails, but to the biblical sense. And in looking at his material, one of the best books, I think the best for me, and he's written a lot of good books. He wrote 6 in his 39 years of life. Spent 21 of those 39 years in school studying. That is elementary and middle, high school, and then after that, on to colleges and universities, ending in his doctorate degree in Boston. So not without going through Morehouse, of course. So there is a lot to be said there, and a lot of insight to be gained, and we are actually using that as a model, if you will, going forward to bring together the kind of coalition and the kind of activity that needs to take place right here in the city of San Antonio so we can lead from this city going forward. Now, there's a lot of things that will be happening in this city, but certainly one of them is our attention to what is happening politically. SABWB is not a political activist organization. We're an organization that seeks to collaborate with all the spheres of influence, but that does not exclude the political either, because the political will touch everything else. So we're moving forward to get those things done. The next video that I want to show you, let's see. Let me go to. Let's see. Where do I go here? Let me do something on Dr. Fauci. So let me just switch this. I'll tell you what. I'll go to commercial right now, and when we come back from commercial, I'm gonna take you into some Fauci stuff because that guy he's all over the page. But he's singing a particular song, and there's a reason that he's singing that particular song. I'll show that to you when I come back. Let's go ahead and look at this commercial, and I'll be right back after that. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Flowers, your host for Transcendent. Transcendent is SABWB's online weekly broadcast aired here on Influencers platform. Join me and other key leaders from various pillars of influence which shape the culture of San Antonio for innovative and strategic dialogue. Each week, we will address core community values and principles that need to be restored and re-implemented into our culture of our great city. This may often necessitate identifying where these values and principles are being compromised and reflecting on the damaging impact that such actions may have if left unaddressed. But ultimately, we want to take the conversation beyond ordinary limits, exceed the normative boundaries, and implement bold, time-tested principles across the pillars of influence in our city, which will result in the positive transformation of the culture. I look forward to visiting with you each week here on Transcendent. So thank you. Thank you for making this something that you watch on Tuesdays. And it's just Friday night tonight, but we didn't watch Tuesday because I was courting my wife on Tuesday. And tonight we're back and ready to get in the midst of all of this with you. I want to take you to some conversation dealing with COVID-19. We will have a forum on COVID-19, and the forum will be entitled COVID-19 is Real. COVID-19 is real. There'll be some leaders from the community and abroad that will be able to speak to these issues directly, because it's not the figment of someone's imagination. COVID-19 is real. How real is it? It'll probably be like COVID-19 is real, ? Because it's a real virus, but it's not a virus that has moved from animal to human without some assistance. Now, the video that I'm about to show you now pinpoints, targets with precision how Dr. Fauci was involved in that on both sides of it. Now listen to me, listen. You will see in the video that he's involved on the developmental side of the virus, and he's involved on the vaccine side of the virus. Now, folks, doesn't that tell you something? Or are we so sold on the fact that everything that comes from the news is the truth, and everything that contradicts that narrative is conspiracy theory? Are we there as a people? Is this what you really wanted? Is this, when you voted, is this what you really wanted to happen, that the dissenting voice of any opinion is pushed out For example, let me just rant here for a little bit concerning Mike Lindell and My Pillow. He's the founder of My Pillow. 22 major corporations have dropped supporting Mike Lindell and his things, his manufactured goods. Kohl's, Kroger. I found HEB's on the list. I don't know what they're boycotting for. I don't think they have any Mike Lindell things in there. But the corporate business world putting a squeeze on a man who took 2 hours segments throughout the day to show the evidence that something happened in terms of the compromise of the vote for presidency of the United States. And there are 2 cases that are still alive with that. One, you'll see today, Dr. Shiva in the state of Massachusetts has shown it, and the state judges have responded to him. Those cases are still alive. And we don't know how far they will go and what the outcome of them will be, but it's at least the notice of it is getting into the realm where something could be done about it if they make a wise choice to do so. Otherwise, we're buried underneath bureaucracy and we're buried underneath manipulation like that of Dr. Fauci. Take a look at this video. And when I come back, I'm going to actually be commenting through the video. But I want you to hear certain pertinent things, namely about the money trail. Let's take a look at the video together.
Let's see what they did with the Fauci money. In the project's results page, there are 13 papers co-authored by Shizheng Li, who is head of the Wuhan Institute's infectious disease unit. One of the papers was published in 2017, roughly halfway through the project. Peter Daszak is listed as a co-author. It's a kind of progress report. Inside the funding section of that paper is the ID of the Fauci Commission project. That's the money trail. Until now, the only reporting on Fauci's role in all this has been on his funding of the Wuhan lab in general. But tonight we can go further. Thanks to this paper, we can see the specific activity that Fauci funded. And it's terrifying. So terrifying, in fact, that after we reached out to the NIH and Peter Daszak's group for comment, this paper was mysteriously taken offline on Friday for a while. But we downloaded it weeks ago. Here are the details. We're putting the actual scientific language on screen now, but this is what it means in plain English. They collected samples of bat feces from a cave near Kunming in Yunnan province, China. They found many novel bat coronaviruses in the feces. They analyzed them and sequenced their genetic information. They then built various chimeras, genetically engineered new viruses, man-made in the lab.
They built new man-made
human
viruses.
cells with them in the lab. And they then showed that their man-made viruses could replicate as a functional virus. Here's the most important part. The genetic changes they made in the lab unlocked a highly specific doorway into the human body. The virus that causes COVID-19 uses that same exact doorway. To be clear, none of the genetically engineered viruses created back in 2017 and reported in this paper were the exact ones we're dealing with now. But what they confirm is that it was possible to make the COVID-19 virus using the techniques developed in the Fauci project. And that project continued for 3 more years. 3 more years of experimentation, 3 more years of man-made mutation. Now let's look at the actual COVID-19 virus. How does it compare to the ones we know were made earlier in the Wuhan lab?
A comparison to the ones that were made and the ones, the COVID-19 virus that we're dealing with now.
Tighter than the original SARS virus, which is why it's much more infectious. Scientists would expect increases in infectiousness to happen through cycles of mutation, but with this virus, it was there from the start. In a paper published in February 2020, Shizheng Li confirms that the backbone of the pandemic virus matches one from the Wuhan Institute's library of collected samples. Their 2017 paper describes how they swapped parts of coronavirus found in other animals into bat coronavirus strains in order to make more infectious man-made versions. And sure enough, The pandemic virus looks like a combination of two very different bat viruses mixed with parts of a virus from a completely different species. Could something like that occur in nature? That's what Peter Daszak is saying. Quote, maybe a farmer got infected or a farmer's animals and they were shipped into their markets. If a person brings it in or an animal, that virus will spread. And it looks like that's what happened here. If we're to believe that natural origin story, here are the coincidences that would have had to happen. Multiple different species of bats in South China would have to infect each other and some other unknown animal. Then either these animals or an infected human would need to have traveled 1,000 miles without infecting anyone until they got to Wuhan. In its first incarnation, before any mutations, it would have been 10 to 20 times more infectious than any previously observed virus. And most incredibly of all, the infected animal or human would have somehow chosen to make their 1,000-mile trek to the only place in all of China with a lab that had the world's most extensive collection of the viruses it was already infected with, and the one place in the entire world that carried out genetic research which matched that virus. We're not suggesting for a second that the coronavirus was created or released as a bioweapon, but lab accidents happen. That is literally the reason the Obama administration stopped this kind of research. During the SARS epidemic, 2 researchers studying that virus in a lab in China became infected and sparked an outbreak. Another researcher in Singapore was infected with SARS, and he wasn't even studying it. Other people in his lab were. Even with the proper precautions, these leaks can happen. The researcher in Singapore was working in a lab with a biosafety level 3 rating, the second highest possible. A lab with a biosafety rating of 4 was built in the Wuhan Institute in 2015, but they'd been doing bat coronavirus research years before then, in less safe settings, and even after the higher safety rating, there were concerns about it. In 2018, the US Embassy in China repeatedly sent diplomats to the lab, who after touring it warned that it had serious safety and management weaknesses. And just last week, the State Department said that several researchers at the lab became sick in the fall of 2019 with COVID symptoms. It was also reported in January that Matt Pottinger, President Trump's deputy national security advisor, privately told a group of British officials that a, quote, growing body of evidence supported the idea that the virus leaked from the Wuhan lab. Here on the record is Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, the UK's CIA. Quote, it's an engineered escapee from the Wuhan Institute. I'm not saying anything other than the fact that it was the result of an accident. These obvious lab risks are why the Obama administration tried to stop this research back in 2014. When you
Did you hear that? Why would someone engineer a coronavirus from bat droppings, and why would they test it on human cells? To what end? And Fauci, if you listen to the entirety of that, funded the research, and now Fauci and Gates want to manufacture the vaccine. And they want to make the vaccine mandatory for you to take it. Whose pocket does that line, and to what? Because if they can create a reason for you to take the vaccine, then they can put into the vaccine whatever it is they want to do, not only to combat this virus, but to make any other kind of biological alterations in you that they have already planned to make in you. Why would someone plan research on one side and then get the vaccines and make it mandatory on the other side? This is the level at which deception reigns in the different spheres that shape the culture. And I'll just tell you this, things that are existential, like your health, like water, like the plenitude of food, weather issues, all of those things that bear down on your existence, your ability to exist comfortably as a person, to break into what Maslow would call the basic hierarchy of needs, those things that help you exist. If they're threatened, fear level raises, and when the fear level rises, manipulative process also can arise. When the fear level rises, you can be manipulated into giving up what you would not normally give up if you were not fearful. So you and I have to be at least aware of the fact that this is what's happening before our very eyes, and not just aware of it. The body of Christ should be praying. This is why we are praying. There are many things done in this city. We're praying every Sunday night. A group of churches are meeting together this coming Sunday night. It will probably end up being a virtual prayer meeting because the weather's supposed to be down into the low teens this coming Sunday night. But you'll know more about that as we move on into the week. But that's why prayer must be at a top priority in the body of Christ. That's why prayer must be on the agenda. That's why, believers, you cannot continue to live your life the way you live it and then expect something to change when there are an elite few that has all the energies that they're putting forth to promote their evil agenda. And they can do it because of our passivity. The persons who are passive becomes the puppets. The persons who are passive become the puppets. And those who are diligent become the puppet masters. You and I have to decide that we're going to be diligent about our business, that we'll not be slothful, but be diligent in our affairs, fervent in spirit, as it says in the book of Romans, that we're eager about taking care of business right here in the city of San Antonio. And the one way you can help, not the only way, but one of the ways you can help make that happen is by becoming an SABWB partner. Folks, I'm listening. I'm using these things to marshal us to action, because if we don't act, this agenda will roll right over us like a steamroller. And when all it takes from you is $10 a month to put to work full time a team that will address these things while you are going about your daily activity. A team can address these matters, make sure that our voting is integral, make sure that we can reach the people that we want to be at the polls to vote, and make sure that their votes are actually counted, and make sure that we get the right people in rulership in our city. And there are people that have plans and great ideas and moving things ahead. That's why mayoral things are important to you. That's why February 16th should be on your priority list. It should be something you're eager about doing, something that you're making sure you're going to be there at 6 o'clock at Restoring Church. Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. That's kind of a meet and greet thing. All of you Trump trainers, listen. Driving a truck with a flag on it won't change the city of San Antonio. It's good. It's good that you make known that you're a patriot and that you love the country, but just driving your truck alone won't do it. You have to show up and be willing to put your hands to the plow to see that the city of San Antonio is changed in the direction that you want it to be changed in. Be a part of that debate. Listen with open ears. Restoring Church, Tuesday, 6 o'clock. I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get the address for you right now, so that before I get off of here with you today, you can have it and you can make sure that you are there. All right, I should have it in just a few minutes. This coming Sunday night. But prior to me, I'm sorry, I said Sunday night. It's Tuesday night. This coming Tuesday night. I want to show you one other video tonight. Bill Maher makes it real plain as to what is going on with those who are pushing this particular agenda and who actually their targets are. Now, I'm going to go to commercial before I do that, giving you opportunity to go get a drink of water or something and come back, get your notepads, because we need to talk through what is actually going on here, particularly if you're a member of the body of Christ. What Bill Maher has to say to you and about you is of importance. But let's go to this commercial, and then afterwards I'll come right back. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Flowers, the founder of San Antonio in Black, White, and Brown, also known as SABWB. SABWB is the premier leadership space where influencers from every race and position and perspective converge to build relationships and collaborate on the implementation of principles that shape the culture. SABWB is your voice speaking aloud for integrity, for justice, and transparency and truth in our city. SABWB is your platform for collaboration, leading to impact and transformation. SABWB is your presence in the marketplace of ideas in business and politics and education, sports, entertainment, health and wellness, media, and the church. SABWB needs your partnership as we together transcend the boundaries of race and class and build a kingdom culture here in San Antonio. Partnership is only $10 a month, easy enough for all of us to participate. Many of us doing a little will have major impact in our city. To partner, go to sabwb.org or text SABWB space your gift to 84321. Thank you in advance for joining in the transformation of our city. You and I are ordained and destined to be the transformers. I want to correct some texting information. The number is 84321 that you text to, but you put the amount first, the $10 amount first, space SABWB. And that will allow us to have a team of people, very qualified and eager people who will address this 24/7. A pastor like me, we don't address these issues 24/7. There is a flock we have to take care of. There are things pertinent to the particular vision of our house that we have to take care of. There's a wider scope in how we feed into the big C church in the city that we also must be careful about. There is a need, therefore, for specialized ministry going forward, and SABWB is that. Your participation as a partner, going to our website at sabwb.org or doing it right there on your phone, texting to 84321, a $10 amount, and then SABWB. If you text a $10 amount, we're going to contact you and make sure that you not only want to give that $10 one time, but you want to become a monthly partner with us and allow us to be able to be your voice 24/7. So when you are at work and when you're at home and when you're doing your stuff, you know that SABWB is on the job for you, doing what is required to make sure that your vote is counted, that the process is not compromised, to make sure that good candidates are vetted and that you have an opportunity to hear them and to be in contact with them. And then when you vote, that you can actually, we're working on a way to validate that vote. So much going on that needs to happen immediately. So I don't need you to wait on this. I need you to just act tonight. 84321, $10, the space, and then SABWB gives us an opportunity to get that done. So if you were in any way confused or undecided as to why there is such a pinch taking place from big tech and from the political arena, the Democratic establishment mostly, if you were in any way undecisive as to where all of this is going, Bill Maher kind of squares up for you. He's a very arrogant fellow in my estimation, one who likes this quasi look of intelligence. It is quasi, but and says things that are denigrating and insulting to whomever group it is that he wants to spotlight. And of course, he has the triggered and trained audience to endorse all of his foolishness. But I want you to take a look at what he says is what is this all really about? And before we go here, I'll remind you that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, when he's given us a prophecy concerning end times, he says something about all men hating you for his name's sake. You remember that? In Matthew, the 24th chapter. Just let me flip there right quick while this video is getting ready to come up. It says in verse 10, and then shall many be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many, because iniquity shall abound, and the love of many shall wax cold. But he that endures to the end, the same shall be saved. And then he says this gospel of the kingdom, verse 14. He said the gospel of the kingdom. It's the gospel of the kingdom that shall be preached in all the earth, and then shall the end come. He says later, he says, you will be hated. Yes, in verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Those who will unequivocally name the name of Jesus in the midst of people. I had believers tell me, just preach love. And my answer to them, my response to them was, look at the ministry of Jesus and then tell me to preach love. Because Jesus didn't just preach only love. He addressed the issues of his day. Religious people mostly. But he addressed the issues of his day even broader than that context. Jesus began with a message of the kingdom, and he taught that message of the kingdom for 3.5 years. He was crucified unjustly, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God. He came back from the dead, met with the disciples after the resurrection, start preaching the kingdom to them again. The kingdom of God was the totality of the message of Jesus Christ. And he said in Matthew chapter 13, verse 33, he says, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a woman who took leaven and hid it in 3 measures of meal until the whole thing was leavened. And then he didn't say any more. In one verse, he succinctly gave the mission of the body of Christ, and that was affect the whole thing. So be sown into it and affect the whole thing. Bring the change of the kingdom into every aspect of life. That includes the political arena. So I want you to take a listen at Bill Maher now as he kind of boils down, for those of you who may be undecisive or unclear, as to who's actually being negatively looked at, who's actually being negatively targeted. Here's Bill Maher.
Democrats want us to believe that they're just after that Congress lady, or they're just after
I can't
Trump.
hear the video.
Or they're just after, I don't know, there's always someone they seem to be just after. Just one more person, and then they'll respect us, then they'll like us, right? Bill Maher, who is occasionally honest, often wrong, but occasionally honest, has admitted this isn't about Trump or Marjorie Greene or QAnon or conspiracy theories. It's about all of us. It's about conservatives. It's about Christians. It's about people who hold traditional beliefs in this country. The left thinks we're all the same. The left thinks there's no difference. I've mentioned this on the show. You notice how they don't say alt-right anymore. The alt-right, whatever that, at one point I think it did have a real meaning, but now it doesn't really have any meaning at all. They don't care about the alt-right or the this right or the conservatives, or they just think we're all the same. Bill Maher, they just think we're all the same, and they think we're all completely lunatics, right? Completely insane, and they want us ostracized from society.
As long as we're going to go to the trouble of another impeachment trial, we might as well be honest about what it's really about. The events of January 6th were a faith-based initiative.
Notice the cross
and
comes up
Trumpism
when he says, let's be
is a Christian
honest about what it's
nationalist
about.
movement that believes Trump was literally sent from heaven to save them. It's right there in Senator Tommy Tuberville's campaign ad.
God sent us Donald Trump because God knew we were in trouble.
There's a lot of talk now in liberal quarters about how Republicans should
Did you
tell their
notice the
base
jeering
who
in the
still
background?
believe the election was rigged that they need to grow up and move on and stop asking the rest of us to respect their mass delusion. And of course, it is a mass delusion.
Mass delusion. As a
but
Christian,
the inconvenient truth here is that if you
a part
accord
of a mass
religious
delusion.
faith the kind of exalted respect we do here in America, you've already lost the argument that mass delusion is bad. It's fun to laugh at QAnon with the baby-eating lizard people and the pedophile pizza parlors, but have you ever read the book of Revelations?
Because Bill Maher probably hasn't read the book of Revelations, because the book of Revelation is not called the book of Revelations. The dude couldn't even get the name of the book right as he's making fun of it, which is true of so many of these sophomoric atheist types. I mean, I think the days of the Bill Maher style atheism are over. There was this kind of publishing fad in the mid-2000s. They called him the New Atheist. It was like Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris. And their books, I read some of their books, were very weak. I mean, they didn't even make the arguments they were purporting to make. But, you know, it was popular among like 14-year-old boys in urban areas or something. And it wasn't to be really taken seriously, and Bill Maher is not to be taken seriously, right? He doesn't.
Okay.
He exposes
Bill
the
Maher's
biblical
not to be taken
literacy
seriously. We'll cut it right there.
Theological insight.
But what I wanted you to see in that video is this: that Bill Maher said what others are not saying, in that the target of all of this activity that's happening, the target is Christians, and that Christians are under a delusion. Now it's bewildering to me almost that the Bible says that in the last days, because they loved not the truth, God will send them a strong delusion. He's not talking about the people of God. He's talking about those who reject the truth. Those who are no longer able to say that a man is not a man, a man is not a woman because he claims to be. Just like what's happening right now in female sport. If I were a female athlete, I would be livid, as now that I have to compete with a man who just says he's a woman, and we have to accept that he is a woman, and he's able to compete at the level of sport with women. And we have to believe that just because he says he is, and we can't deny him any rights to do anything that a woman does. It is insane. And yet the insane crowd will tell you, as a child of God, you are delusional. I'm telling you, what is happening in the culture, what's happening in the world out there is a strange thing. It's a strange thing. It's so strange that it's going to take a move of God. It's going to take a move of God to break the hold that is on the minds of people. So we have got some things going on here. I told you I was going to get the address. Here it is. It's 8308 Fredericksburg Road. 8308 Fredericksburg Road. It is of necessity, every one of you in the city of San Antonio who know that our city can go in a more positive direction than it's going. It's as if government is getting bigger, and its supply lines, the breast of the government. You know, one of the names for God in the scripture is El Shaddai. El Shaddai. It's a Hebrew name, and it means the many-breasted one, which means that God himself is able to supply the needs, the nutrients, the wherewithal for growth and vitality. He himself, God, is the one. But now instead of looking to God for that, the city desires and the government desires that you look to them for that. So they actually want you to practice idolatry. They want you to move your faith out of the arena. There is a group, let me insert this because I'm thinking about it now. There's a group called the Secular Democrats of America. The Secular Democrats of America. Look it up. Secular Democrats of America. They have put a list into President Biden and Harris and Vice President Harris of 28 things that they are pushing for. And the Secular Democrats of America, by the way, include 14 sitting Democratic representatives. It includes them, 14 sitting Democratic leaders. And what they've said on their list of 28 that they've given to President Biden and to Vice President Harris, that they do not want any input from the Christian faith as it relates to public policy. They don't want any input from the Christian faith. Now, is that what you wanted? Is that actually what you wanted to vote for? Notice that that list did not come up while President Trump was in office. That list would not have even been thought to be approached to this to the Trump administration. But as soon as Biden and Harris got into office, the secular Democrats of America floats this list to them and make this a part of your working policy, which includes 14 people that are already sitting representatives, that we don't want any input about public process from a Christian perspective. Is that what you wanted when you voted for Biden and Harris? Is that what you wanted, a regime that would entertain that idea? Because that idea never floated forward in the 4 years that President Trump served as president of the United States. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted? Because it's what you got. And there were those, and I'll say this to you too. I'll say it's what you got, but it's not really what you got. I'm getting ready to go to a video here with Dr. Shiva. Dr. Shiva is the only one who has put forth cases in the judicial system citing voter irregularity that has not been kicked out of the system. He ran for I think it was senator in the state of Massachusetts. He's either a congressman or a senator. And he had an army of volunteers all over the state. You couldn't go anywhere without his stuff being up. And listen to this now. This is important for you. He ran against another Republican in the Republican primaries. The Republican that he was running against made no effort to get out at all. He was a no-name. Nobody knew anything about him. Shiva stuff was everywhere. And when the votes started to come in, you will hear him say this in a moment, in the one county where the ballots were counted by hand, Shiva won. But in the other counties where they were counted by voting machines, he lost pretty much to the same degree, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40 for his opponent, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40 for his opponent. In every community, in the Black community, in the Hispanic community, in the Indian community, he's Indian from India, all of those. But in every community, other than the one that was counted by hand, he lost to the same degree. Now, I want to take you into this video. I want you to listen carefully, because this is not only happened in Massachusetts, but it can happen right here in the city of San Antonio if organizations don't come forth like San Antonio and Black, White, and Brown and others. We're not the only thing going. In fact, this meeting to be held this coming Tuesday night at 6 o'clock at 8308 Fredericksburg Road, 8308 Fredericksburg Road. Be there at 7 o'clock. Listen, don't put a flag on your truck. Don't drive up and down the street. Don't honk. Don't paint nothing on your truck if you're not, or your car, if you're not willing to roll your sleeves up and do something about making sure that the people who come into office in this city, both in the mayor's seat and in the council seats, are people who are not going to swallow what is coming from Washington. They're not people who are going to, there'll be people who will work with the leadership of the state, but people who would even refuse to work with the leadership of the state if the state led the state of Texas in an untoward direction. Thankfully, we have a good leadership at the state level, and it needs to be complemented at the level of the city of San Antonio. So I want you to listen to this now. This is Dr. Shiva. The guy's going to introduce him. And then he's going to come on and say what happened to him in Massachusetts and this algorithm thing mostly. And I want you to notice his research indicated that his votes were multiplied by a certain number. I want you to note the number. And his opponent's votes were also multiplied by a certain number. Here's Dr. Shiva.
he's setting up, I'm going to go to Dr. Shiva. Dr. Shiva is also in the documentary. Of course, Dr. Shiva has become quite popular at many levels. But Dr. Shiva, I'm going to give you the floor. Will you take a few minutes and just explain maybe again how we know this was a fraudulent election, Dr. Shiva?
Yes, how are you doing?
Great,
Brandon?
great. Go right ahead.
So you want me to talk about Massachusetts?
Yeah,
right?
Great.
Yeah, so to everyone listening, many of you may know that I ran for United States Senate in Massachusetts. We had 3,000 volunteers on the ground. This was in the Republican primary. 3,000 volunteers on the ground, 10,000 lawn signs, 20,000 bumper stickers. We were everywhere. You cannot not come to Massachusetts and not know who Dr. Shiva was. The GOP establishment, Brandon, as we talked about in the documentary, ran a guy who was nowhere to be found. And essentially the goal of it was to make sure that I would not destroy Ed Markey, who's a Democrat, who's been in there for nearly 50 years. So that was the plan. Well, but we were everywhere to be found on September 1st when the primary results come in. This was what was fascinating because I didn't think election fraud took place in the United States. And you hear about it in third world countries. And we find out is the following: on September 1st in Franklin County, which is a county of Massachusetts where nearly 80% of the votes were hand counted, paper ballots, I win by nearly 10 points. In every other county, Brandon, it was 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. That exact ratio, near exact ratio in every other county. To a guy who, in black neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods, to a guy who was non-existent, no real organization, no lawn signs, etc. And that's when I realized something is absolutely wrong. As a scientist, as an engineer, the deviation was so big. So by September 9th, I had figured out that these electronic voting machines in the United States, starting as early as 2002, and in the Diebold voting manuals, it clearly says on page 2-126 that there's a feature called the weighted race feature. What that means is computer algorithms. They allow for computer algorithms to multiply votes. If you got 1,000 votes, I got 1,000 votes, it can multiply your votes, let's say by 2, my votes by 0.5, right? So you get 2,000 votes, I suddenly, mysteriously, I lose 500 votes, I only get 500 votes. Well, what we found in Massachusetts was that this anomaly took place, and one of the clear evidences in electronic voting machines, Brandon, when you take that paper ballot, right, and it's not hand counted, you put it in these electronic voting machines, what occurs is a ballot image is created, right? That ballot image is a picture of that paper ballot. And then the machine uses its technology to actually do the counting. So what people need to understand is the ballot is not counted by a human being. It's not a paper ballot. The ballot is now a digital image, a ballot image. That is the ballot. And that's what is used by electronic voting machines to do the counting. Therefore, if you want to show the existence of these computer algorithms, you need the ballot images. So on September 9th, I went to the Massachusetts Secretary of State and I said, I want the ballot images, I want the log files, which, by the way, according to federal law, they have to save for 22 months. Well, it turns out they boldly tell me on September 24th that they deleted the ballot images and that they can do that pursuant to Massachusetts law. So I said, what is the Massachusetts law? They don't answer that. They send me an email back saying that what we actually did was we saved the paper ballots, but we don't store the ballot images. And my response was, you violated federal law. Those 4 emails, when I shared them on Twitter, I was banned on Twitter in the middle of a federal election with 3 days remaining. So I'm banned in the middle of a federal election, not by Twitter, but by the government forcing Twitter to do this. And this is what everyone needs to understand. The government forced Twitter to ban a United States federal candidate because I was sharing the absolute fact that the government was violating federal law, the Massachusetts government, by deleting ballot images. So this is and why is that important? Because the existence of the ballot images could show us if computer algorithms were being done or not. So that was the first lawsuit we filed. And the great thing was, which again, Fox or CNN, none of the mainstream media wants to talk about, is we had a major win in that lawsuit. The judge gave me all the terms of a restraining order, which told the Secretary of State, you can no longer call Twitter, number one. Also told the National Association of State Election Directors they can't be doing this through the Secretary of State. and told them if they had any problems, they should go on Twitter to fight it out, that they should practice the First Amendment. In the second lawsuit, I pulled out all my mathematical, background in all those 4 degrees at MIT and my expertise in pattern analysis. And we actually found that they, through a very deep mathematical analysis, an amazing anomaly we saw in a county called Suffolk County, that we saw this very interesting pattern that could only occur only 1 in 100,000 times, only if my votes were multiplied by 0.666. And the other guy's vote was multiplied by 1.2. And that was put into our second lawsuit to decertify the entire U.S. Senate election and ask for a hand recount of the September 1st primary. So again, Massachusetts has a lot of very smart people, a lot of mathematicians. That got filed in federal court. Again, I'm representing myself also, everyone needs to understand, because no lawyer wanted to take on the swamp in Massachusetts. So we already had a victory from the first one.
Wait a minute. You're not even a lawyer, but folks, you realize who we're talking to here, right? I think one publication called him the smartest man in the room, and he invented email when he was 14. All right. So imagine sitting and having dinner with Dr. Shiva. He makes you feel rather insignificant. What have you accomplished? Let's see. I'm not so sure compared to Dr. Shiva. He invented email at 14 years of age, has 4 MIT degrees, but he can't find a lawyer to represent him on the voting fraud because, by the way, we had one attorney who's in the documentary, it's hurting his practice because he dares to speak up and take on a case fighting voter fraud in his state. So again, people are trying to be destroyed. Well, he couldn't even find a lawyer to represent him. So I guess being the smartest man in the room, he just says, who needs a lawyer? He goes and bones up on it and he starts representing himself. And as you're hearing, he's winning. I mean, if that's not sticking it to the man, I don't know what is. He's like, we don't need no lawyers. I'll just represent myself. He studies it and he wins. But pick it up from there. This is the guy that invented email, by the way.
One thing, Brandon, is we went after the real crime scene. The real crime scene is a use of computer algorithms. Look, I've spent my whole life since I was 14 years old when I was a full-time research fellow. I got to NYU when I was 14 in a computer science program. While finishing up high school, I had a full-time job at Rutgers Medical School analyzing sleep patterns of babies to try to predict using algorithms when you could predict the onset of an apnea. While I created the world's first email system, I named it email, wrote all the 50,000 lines of code, have the first U.S. copyright. There's no controversy on that. But the important point here is my entire life has been spent on analyzing patterns. My undergraduate research at MIT, across my 2 master's degrees, my PhD at MIT, that's what I do for a living. So here, on September 1st, I find myself in a very interesting situation that I find myself, I'm in third world Massachusetts. Election fraud took place. They're deleting ballot images. So I pull out all my math and I start analyzing the data, and I clearly find that they've multiplied my votes by basically my vote, and anyone who voted for me became 2/3 of a human being. This is like going back to 1787, when the ruling was the 3/5 compromise. Black people were 3/5 of a human being. In Massachusetts, they're 2/3 of a human being. Those people voted for me. So that was put into our lawsuit, which again I filed, to ask to decertify the election. Well, the Secretary of State files about 100 to 200 page response in rebuttals and demanding that the judge dismiss my lawsuit. Well, guess what? The judge denies their dismissal. So today, I have 2 lawsuits in federal court, both of which have survived dismissal. The only 2 lawsuits which have gotten 2 victories among all the lawsuits that have all gotten thrown out of court. This is in Massachusetts, where the American Revolution took place, where people were really wanting to understand. Okay, we'll stop it right there.
I think it's important that you hear what is going on at that level. We can go ahead and stop the video. I think it's important that you hear what's going on at that level and how these people who cannot be dismissed, they can't be excused. They're people who did their research. They're people who are very qualified. This Dr. Shiva has 4 MIT degrees, invented email at 14. These are not people who are dummies. These are not people who are conspiracy theorists. These are those who have researched the data, and they come back with the unequivocal answer. And finally, this guy in Massachusetts finds a judge who's willing to stand the heat by not dismissing his lawsuits. Where will that eventually go? What will be the outcome of that? Will it work to? I tell you what I still solidly believe. As I'm sitting here with you tonight, I believe that this cover is going to come off. In fact, it was Pastor Darrell Crane. I'm not sure if he's still watching tonight or not, but he said in a meeting that I was in with him and some other pastors earlier today praying, that as he just sought the Lord about this, that there were a couple of things. There's three words. I can only remember two. One was exposure and surprise. That there would be an exposure to the depth of corruption, that it will be uncovered. And Darrell said later that the fallout of that going forward will be some manifestation of God's judgment against that corruption. But surprise for those of us who are staying in this position of faith, trusting God to bring justice out of this corruption. Now, the saddest part to this for me, beloved, is where the church is on it. The church is all over the page, and mostly the church is divided along political lines. May I remind us tonight, you know why SABWB is called SABWB, San Antonio in black, white, and brown? Because there are things that are common to all the ethnic groups, and those are the three most populous ethnic groups in our city. Not the only. We embrace everybody. We're working on a new logo that will reflect the beauty and the color in the city. Be looking for a t-shirt coming forth, SABWB t-shirt, that helps us to identify all of us in the city, every one of us, every single one of us. Whether we're in church, whether we're in a Lions Club, whether we're in some other kind of organization. I met a beautiful man, beautiful in terms of his spirit, named Danny Diaz this week. Willie brought him over. Danny serves as the current San Antonio Police Officers Association president. And he knows what's coming through the chain of the city as far as Fix SA is concerned. Fix SA implies something is broken. Now, there are probably many things that are broken and need to be fixed. So the first, as in the non-discrimination ordinance, they called it non-discrimination. So anybody who fights against the NDO first has to get over the hump of being identified as a discriminator because you're fighting against a non-discrimination ordinance. And wow, I didn't know that. So now Fix SA is on the market, and it's now coming actually to defund the police. And if there's any community, it's drug-riddled communities that need the proper presence of a police force in their community, not the police force that will threaten them. I talked with Danny about that this week. Going forward, we'll be hand in hand with the SAPOA, looking to make sure that the kinds of policing that is done across the city of San Antonio in every community is the kind that is welcoming and aiding, rather than the kind that is destroying relationships and destroying lives. These are tough conversations to have, but Danny's willing to have them. Chief McManus I've talked to on a number of occasions. He's willing to have such conversations. But when you have elements in city leadership that only wants to push a certain agenda at the cost of any and everyone else, because you see, here's the thought. This elite class of people believe they know what's best for you and me. We are too uninformed. We're too ignorant to know for ourselves what is best. So this elite scholarly class knows what's best for us, and they'll drag us into this utopian future kicking and screaming. We're kicking and screaming because we don't understand the beauty of what they're leading us into, and that once we're in it and experience it, that then we'll look back on them and say, oh, what great leaders they were to move us out of the quagmire of our antiquity and our thinking and move us into this glorious utopia that we are now in. Thank you so much for overlooking our ignorance and forcing us into this grand utopia. I'm telling you, this is what that elite class feels like. Senses about you and me, but you and I have to be a people who decide that we the people of the Constitution, and that the investment of power in the way life happens in a city is not in an elite few, it's in the hands of you and me. That's why you have to act. Okay, I'm going to close. I've been on here an hour and a half today. I didn't know that. Thanks for hanging with me. But share this, share this, share this. San Antonio and Black, White, and Brown need your partnership. Go to our webpage, sabwb.org. Follow those few little clicks on there and become our monthly partner. 1,500 of us doing that across the city of 1.7 million will literally change the face of San Antonio. Mark this day on your calendar. Be with your sweetie on the 14th. But on the 16th, make sure that you're at 8308 Fredericksburg Road for the first mayoral debate here in our city. And going forward, you and I are going to take our city back. San Antonio is a city for we the people. You're going to see that on some paraphernalia going forward. But San Antonio is the city of we the people. All right. Thank you so much for helping. By the way, you can, as soon as I get off, you can participate in our $10 partnership offering tonight to the number 84321. 84321. Text this. Put 10, then a space, and SABWB, and that will allow us to move forward with all of the stuff that's happening in our office and what we're doing to collect people, to make sure that we're on this 24/7, that we're moving in a direction to make sure that things are held in a right course, and that they're moved into a right course for the city of San Antonio as we move forward. I'm excited about San Antonio. I love this city. I love you. The city is not buildings. I mean, it is buildings, but it's not only buildings. The city is people, and I love the people of San Antonio. And I know that you are a people that God has called to greatness, and together we're going to reach that. Thank you for being with me tonight here on Transcendent, right here on Influencers Platform, which is our weekly broadcast of San Antonio and Black, White, and Brown. We will see you next Tuesday. God bless you. Thanks for hanging with me. Bye-bye now.